All right, so welcome back to another episode of the ShadowKast. Today I am joined by Raphael Neven, and he was a guest on the channel already, but today he is here for a bit of a chill conversation. I just want to pick his brain about the game, not just discuss tech cards, because we did a tier list, but that was some time ago. So welcome back to the channel. I'm really glad to have you here.
No worries. Glad to be here.
Well, we have a lot to talk about because the ban list happened, two major nationals just took place, and of course, I wanna get in on all the secrets that you're keeping about your take on the future of the game and all of that. So, did you get a chance to look at like the nationals and the breakdown and all that? Because it's kind of wild if you think about it. There's a lot of decks, especially at French nationals.
Yeah, I followed French Nets. I watched Josh's stream and I watched the most of the feature matches with friends in Discord and yeah, it's like you say, there are like a lot of decks. I would even say it's like a bit too many to really prepare well for a tournament. Like I think my group and I went over like the decks and there's like 15 decks you could arguably just do well with. If you consider like all the runic sprite variants as well as separate decks, then like you actually get to 15, which is
True.
I like there's a lot of people who like diversity. As a competitive player, I really don't like diversity that much. I think it's fine if there's like I like triangle formats are fine, like with free decks, like Thunder Dragon, Orcus, Salamangreat, like that was
That was a
fine,
great format.
but 15 decks just make it like it's
Mm.
you have to take it almost becomes like you're playing like Pokemon, right? Like there's you just auto loses some matchups.
That's the thing in
Because you
Pokemon. Is there like a lot of decks?
well like not like there's like a lot, but like there's certain matchups that you just have to accept that that's going to be very difficult. And I feel like if there's too many decks in Yu-Gi-Oh, like the same thing happens because you only have 15 cards in your side deck,
Mm.
and when there are so many decks and they also require very different approaches on how to beat them, then the side deck is just not big enough. So it becomes kind of like impossible to prepare for all of them. So you have to accept that certain matchups will just be bad.
A
Which
lot
I
of
don't like.
people like. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, no, that was it. I just
Oh,
don't like that.
okay. Okay, that's fair. A lot of people compare it to last year's diversity. I personally hated last year's nationals format, basically because I was like just
Yeah,
pissed
same.
that they hit Prankits 1v.
Oh, okay. Yeah, me too, to be honest. I was also
I
Franklin's
just
playing.
sat there and I had no purpose in life the second I saw the ban list. But other than that, I hated the diversity as well. But I still feel like this year's nationals format is a bit more like it's better. It's better than last year's. I feel like to me because a lot of things last year were very unhealthy, and in this one, only a rise card seems kind of unhealthy, if that makes sense. Like decks just do their thing, whereas last year they just did unhealthy things, and most of them did the same one, which was like Scythe and stuff like that.
Yeah, that is true. Like what they did last year, I guess, is they were all like reskins of the same deck.
Yeah,
Um yeah, Riser is definitely unhealthy. But I don't know. I think this one is also pretty bad just because there's too many decks.
there are.
Um
Like I
and
feel bad for
sure,
everybody
yeah.
that like when I went up against Vanquish Soul and then Vanquish Soul just came out of nowhere and you're just like, what do I do now? So but not just that, there is a ton of diversity, and I feel like it's just so annoying to have to limit yourself to the 15 cards like you mentioned. And overall you can't expect everything. You just cannot have that type of brain. I feel like you're gonna have to be like, okay, there might be some random stuff that I go up against, and I'm just gonna be like, did you see the synchron list from, I think it was French nationals, like synchron something made it to top 64? It's just synchron cards.
Oh no, I did not. Yeah, that's like, but
That's actually
that's also
wild.
like a national thing, like
Okay,
especially
yeah.
when they do top 64.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like this sneaks in, but yeah, no, it is annoying because like you just can't prepare well, I think, for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like decks just require really different cards and approaches. I
For
think a lot of
sure.
people play board breakers right now, but those are just like very bad into like a couple decks. like Branded, for example. Branded, especially, is always difficult because it requires very different cards to counter. Um, then like most of the other decks, like you want like board breakers against cash, usually, but usually those board breakers are completely useless into Branded. That's just one of the examples that I really don't like in preparing.
No, but it's a good example because Branded was quite represented. You know, if you look
Yeah.
at all the top cards like Sprite, Kashtira, Branded were very much represented. I'm not sure
Yeah.
about the conversion rate. I didn't check the entire like representation from French nationals compared
The
to the
Branded
top cut.
conversion rate wasn't that good, but
Yeah,
but still it was played like pretty heavily. I think it was one of the most popular decks, which is just like,
yeah, I heard
and the
that.
conversion
Yeah.
rate shows that it's probably not a good pick for a tournament. But then if so many people play it, then you can definitely see it in the earlier rounds, which means you do have to like respect it. And you do have to like prepare some cards for it. But the cards you're gonna set aside for those are probably only good in that matchups, and like that's kind of annoying because like there's like 15 different decks you can play in the Swiss, and then like if you only play one Branded, then like that's kind of annoying that you have to respect it that much that you have the spots for that, and
But
only
shouldn't it
that.
be like if it's hard to side against Branded, shouldn't Branded be a bit more successful because people don't have as many cards to counter it? Like, isn't it weird that the conversion rate was low? Actually, like, what do you contribute to that, or to what do you contribute that? Should be my question.
Well, it depends, right? Because if people do respect it, it becomes a lot worse. I'm just saying, like, it's hard to make a choice. Like, for example, if I was a French player and I would expect Branded to be that popular, and maybe they did, then they could just like if everyone mains Ash, that becomes like kind of difficult. But if they also cite specific cards like Barrier for it, then it becomes very very bit difficult. And maybe they make that choice and cite it less for other matchups or decks. Like maybe they disrespected the Sprite decks a bit more or Cash or whatever. But going forward into a tournament, I would try and like play something that doesn't lose to those cards. But yeah, it's like I'm not sure why it didn't do that well. Also, I have the impression that a lot of the better players just don't play it. That's just a personal like opinion. Like a lot of like I don't like the word pro players, but like the more competitive players that I see at all events, like the Americans that I play with and stuff. I've never seen them really consider Branded as a deck. So maybe that my opinion also gets influenced by that. Like there's some of my Italian fans that like it, but also even they are not fully convinced on that deck. Because it has inherent issues that you just can't fix.
True.
So I don't know. Branded is a weird one, just because it's like it's weird to like play. It's also hard to play. Maybe that's also a reason. Like a lot of people entered it, but like they just didn't play it very well. Like it's one of the decks I would have to like put a lot of time in if I wanted to play it for like Euros, because it is a difficult deck.
It is difficult, 100%. It literally, I play it and it makes my brains melt. So that's very unrelated, but why don't you like the word pro player? I have to ask you.
Because in reality, in this game at least, it doesn't exist. There is no player that plays this game that makes a living of it.
Do you wanna get into that? Because I think it's a cool topic to discuss. Like, I think I read this on Twitter or somewhere. People were like, what does define a pro player? Or something like that was the topic. I can't remember. I don't even know who posted it. But basically it was like, what makes a pro player, right? So if you say that they don't even exist, like, how do you feel about it? Because you, like I describe you as a hyper competitive guy. So how do you view this as someone that does do well and doesn't, receive, I guess, the prizes that they should,
Oh, I wouldn't say like like people don't get I don't think it's about praises or whatever. Like people still
not praises, prizes, like actual like money and stuff.
prizes.
Yeah. I mean, people are praised.
I mean
for
that is out of our control, right? Like
of course,
this game just has the the price for it in this game is just, if you compare it to other games, it's quite underwhelming. But even in other games, like I don't think there's many games that actually have people that just make a living of it. Maybe in Magic the Gathering, I'm not sure.
Might be.
But even in like Pokemon has really great pricing, One Piece as well. But even if you're very, very good at that, you can't make a living of it. So like the term pro is kind of weird. Like it depends how you like how you just go about like defining that. There's people in Yu-Gi-Oh that make a living of it, definitely. Yeah, if streamers mostly, or
Mm-hmm.
people that have stores or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that is not the same as like
Yeah.
actually,
Making a living off of being good, basically.
yeah, which I just don't think is possible. Even like someone like Jesse, who's like very consistent.
Mm-hmm.
If you like take all of his prices, that is not enough to like live off.
Mm.
Like everything he made in a season, I think, like even with all the prize cards, like it's still not enough.
Mm.
So I don't know, that term has just always been kind of weird to me. There's definitely professional Yu-Gi-Oh, um I don't know, content creators. That's
Okay,
that's
true.
that's definitely a given. But I don't know. I wouldn't call those people pro players either. Like that's something else, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, it probably is. I think over here we've defined this as a community as something completely different. Over here we say pro player and we mean like the players that just consistently do well, even if it doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily like just correlate to the meaning of being a professional. But yeah, I think that's an interesting topic to discuss. Also, again, unrelated, but Flunder made it to top four of Danish nationals. I just looked down at my notes and I saw this. So, what's your take on that? That's very random.
Um, yeah, it is just one of those 15 decks that is viable, and um,
So
it's
you
also one
do
of the
you
decks that
consider Flunder? Do you consider
personally
it?
not,
Yeah.
just because I'm not a big fan of how the deck plays
Okay.
and how I also don't like that, like when you do your entire plunder quote unquote combo, then all of the cards in your hand usually are known, which I really don't like. Like if I play against Flunder,
Okay,
like
that's a good
sometimes you,
point.
you just auto lose, of course, because they have Featherstorm or whatever.
Hmm.
But playing through their boards and stuff is quite, if your deck like has the cards to do it, like it's quite easy, just because you can kind of track all the cards because all the blurs just add themselves back, right? So
Yeah.
you can usually, if they have 5 cards in hand, it's not very scary, because like 4 of
Mm,
those are birds that they just added back, and then one of the sets is like the trap that is Surge, and then they have one unknown set, which is either like Book of Moon or Featherstorm, and if it's Book of Moon you win, and if it's
or like
Featherstorm you
the
lose. So
Advent
like,
Adventure, then you're good. If it's
oh
just
yeah, sure,
adventure, you're
yeah, yeah.
good.
So like it's very like, I don't know, like your opponent knows all your cards basically, and just praying that the board doesn't get outed. Um,
That's
but
literally
I'm not
what Flunder
surprised that I
is.
did well, like because like it is one of those decks that will just take advantage of people playing cards for other decks. Like I said, like if they prepare, like at Philadelphia, I went 9-3, and 2 of my losses were Flunder, because my main deck had
Damn.
only, like my main deck was completely built to beat cash. Um, like with econs and tactics, like Jesse's list, like he just played only stuff for cash. My
Mm-hmm.
only card that was remotely good against Flunder was Ash,
Mm.
which is just not enough, because but we cut imperms and stuff to fit more cards that would be really good in the mirror, which worked very well. I went 6-0 in mirrors,
Mm-hmm.
but then the game ones against Flunder were just like abysmal, because you were really
Mm.
missing the effect negation that we cut for it. So like that is definitely like a quote unquote meta call that you could make. Although I don't think there's a real meta call in a meta with 15x. But I'm
Mm.
not surprised. Like if that Flunder guy played against like a bunch of Kashira decks that were all net decking the Philly decks, which were like mostly the non-engine that they play was like Tactics, Econ, Book of Moon, Book of Eclipse.
Mm.
All of those cards are blanks into Flunder.
Mm.
So yeah, no, I'm not surprised. That can definitely happen.
Okay. Those are fair points. Speaking of you being at Philadelphia, what was it like when the ban list dropped? Because you were
It was
there,
insane. It was insane. Yeah,
yeah.
it was during round 2. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My I was still in my match, or I just finished, but I was still sitting there with my opponent. I think I was just packing up,
Uh-huh.
and then it just dropped, and we were both like, a lot of people were screaming in the venue. It was very.
That's
I hoped
wild.
actually, like, I hope they filmed it. Like, maybe Konami like had a camera out,
Hidden
like pointed
camera.
on the. It would be really cool because
Dude,
like the reaction
imagine.
was.
Imagine if they go like, wait and see. We're gonna drop a list.
It would
Let's
have been
see their
it would have been a
faces.
good like TikTok or whatever, but yeah, no, I don't think they did that.
I saw
And
one video.
people, yeah, oh
No,
okay,
not
nice.
from Philadelphia, but from I think what was it, like
Oh, I saw
Peru
one from
or
like a South
something?
American
Yeah,
nationals, I
yeah, yeah,
think.
yeah. That's what I saw. Like the place went crazy. It was so funny.
Yeah,
So
that was
that was
cool.
cool.
It was
Yeah,
very random, but it was cool.
insanely
The only
random.
thing I didn't like is that like it kind of devalued all of the information from Philly, like all of the dev profiles and stuff are just kind of irrelevant at the point.
I agree 100%. I think it's very wrong that they did it, because it does two things. It takes away from the people achieving results at that event. I think it's really disrespectful in my opinion. I still feel like the people get the praise and they get the hype and whatever, but like they, if they post a deck profile, it's not gonna be as hyped as like,
Yeah, no,
because people don't care. Obviously they move on, it's a new ban list, it's whatever. So I think that's very wrong. And also from the perspective of a content creator, like it just sucks. Like people can't do reactions, they can't work on
yeah, that was another
content.
thing. Like just
Like
being on a
maybe that's very
Saturday.
minor. Yeah.
What I also didn't like is that because it was a weekend where we had the UK nationals with like that was streamed.
Mm-hmm.
So like they did it on a Saturday, so like the stream was just a lot less interesting for people who are watching that.
Mm-hmm.
So all in all, I was very surprised. I was glad it happened. I would have liked it to happen before Philly because
Okay.
the tournament would have been a lot more interesting if they dropped it before Philly. But
Did
yeah,
you
it's
have a plan B if they dropped it before Philly, like a thought out plan B, what to play?
no. Like I did test other decks as well, but like Kastira was just like the obvious choice still. And
Mm-hmm.
no, if they dropped the list on like the first day before the event, we were expecting it not to be legal.
Yeah, of
Like because
course.
when it didn't happen on like the Monday of that week, we just knew like well if it happens on the Friday or Thursday, then it is just not going to be legal.
Okay.
Because usually that's how that works.
Mm-hmm. True. But I think like a ban list on a Saturday, I haven't seen it happen from when I started playing, which was in 2017. So in the last 6 years, this did not
Yeah,
happen. At
yeah.
least,
Usually it
I think
doesn't
so.
happen on Saturday, which is
Yeah,
cool.
very random. So what did you think of it actually?
Overall, I was very happy with it. There were a couple of random hits like that I didn't make sense in my opinion. Like I think Fountain to Two is a really bad one because I don't know. I never play more than two fountains anyway. And that's why I think you see quite a lot of people on Runic just because it wasn't really hit. Starter to two also for Runic decks at least doesn't matter. Melfish Spider I guess lost one starter, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
very minor hit. Um, Arise R2-1, like I would have liked to see it just banned just because it's like it gatekeeps a lot of decks out of the
Mm-hmm.
format. Even like a lot of people are trying out Dragon Link and stuff right now. It's just like with cash in the format and as being represented as it was the trench nets. If that trend just continues, I don't know how you would enter Euros with a deck that loses to Arise Art. I just think that is very bold.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have liked to see it banned, but I understand why it is not banned because they also need to sell teams, so it makes sense. But I would have liked to see it gone. Diablosa was a very good hit. I said I think in the last video as well that Diablosa should have been hit just because it's
Mm-hmm.
uh very unfair card, like
For
picking
sure.
apart the deck and extra deck, like forcing decks to play two of a card they only want to play one of is really cringe. So that was a good hit. But yeah, I mean Kastira still is like very strong with one Arise Art. I don't think it's did did all that much.
Mm-hmm.
The unicorn hit is like I don't like that just because like consistency hits are just a little bit cringe. I think it's better if they just hit the problem cards because consistency hits just make it that you will still lose to it. It's just like less often and it will feel more sacky. Uh, so that's just my take on the Kastira hits. I don't really like it.
Don't you think it's a good thing to lose to it less often as opposed to more often? because they have to in the example of Kashira in particular, because they have to, and we talked about this before we started recording, how they have to like hit decks not very hard because people like invested in the cards, they still want to play it for some more time. So if you take this into consideration, then you kind of need to like hit consistency. It's probably the only choice you have, right? So people lose to it less often.
Yeah, but putting Unicorn to 2 just makes it, I don't know. You already you take a deck that was already not that consistent. You make it even less consistent, and I don't know. The only thing is going to happen is you get more mad when you lose to it because you're still going to lose to it. So I don't know. I would also like rather seen that you just like, I don't know. And if they just banned Birth, for example, I think that would be a lot better hit.
Yes.
Maybe that is too hard, but like that card is like quite ridiculous just
Can we
because of the
like
banish effect
petition
as
for
well.
Birth to be banned, please? Because that
Yeah,
card
then
is
you can just have Unicorn at 3.
Why
You can
does
still
Birth
have
do
like,
everything that it does?
yeah. So I don't know. They could have done another route with the cash deck, but in general, like they hit it fine. Like Diablo's ban is good, but like you'll still see cash probably be the most represented deck. It will probably win the German nationals, either that or Sprite deck, I think. But
Yeah. Do you think like I've seen a lot of discussion about like people go, oh, they released a ban list, but Kashira still won 2 nationals, and I feel like that doesn't really make sense because it's like if you look at the representation and all of that, there's much more diversity. Like they did something correct, even if it wasn't entirely correct in some people's minds. I still feel like the argument is just like kind of weird. Yeah, it won, but we still could have like maybe if only one game had gone differently, we could have seen a Dragon Link deck win nationals, which is like kind of wild actually. And then people go like, oh, they didn't, the ban list didn't change anything, which I disagree with.
I'm not sure. I don't think the ban has changed that much. I think the format we were going to have in London, or sorry, in Euros is going to be London 2.0, and cash is a little bit weaker. But if you ask me, like all of the diversity, like all of the decks that people are trying out right now, like Dragon Link, for example, are just decks that lose to Shifter or Izard. So why couldn't they just, if they ban Shifter, I think it
That
would have
would be
changed a lot
great.
more. Like then you actually are able to like play decks like that. But now it's just, I don't know. I personally don't really think much has changed. We'll see. We'll see like what German nets will do, and there's also a remote device, yes. But I think it's pretty safe if you just say Cash is gonna probably win either of them, both of them.
Okay, it might happen. There's a couple other random decks as well. I wanted like your takes on, I guess. Like there's Vanquish Soul, there's Runic for Higher Sprite, which was very hyped. Like Plunder Patrol with Runic. We're seeing a pattern here. I know there's a lot of Runic stuff.
Yeah,
Like Rika.
because it wasn't hit.
Of course, yeah. And you said that it's kind of weird that Phantom went to 2. I think it's a meme. It's completely weird. But I still think that they kind of went like, okay, people play it at 2 and the correct ratio is probably 2. So like, let's just put it to 2 and then let's murder Runic on the next ban list if need be. You know, I think that's kind of their thought process because they're gonna sell a bunch of Runic reprints in the tins anyway because Tactical Masters are getting reprinted. So yeah, there's a lot of hype surrounding, for example, specifically the Fur Higher Sprite Runic deck. So that's something I wanted your takes on. And then other things like Sky Striker, you know, got very much boosted by the ban list, and people still are kind of indecisive as to whether or not Sky Striker is going to perform. And
I don't think so, to be honest. I think
no?
Sky Striker is still, nah. Like the Sky Striker deck just, I don't know. It feels like it's just kind of power crept by the current decks. And by the non-engine that people play, like the board breakers that people main deck now, like Competitors for Lightning Storms are good against it. Shifter is very strong against it, but also Bestials are good against it. Like, so I don't think it is very well positioned right now. That could definitely change if we have a different meta where people don't main deck Bestials and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it's fine that they called not to roll back and engage the 2. Like, sure. I think it's also because it's cheap and pretty easy to pick up. It's good for like it feels like Salamangreat in 2019. It's one of those beginner decks. People that get into Yu-Gi-Oh and then they want a cheap deck that is pretty viable for locals, and then you would just say, okay, just buy the Salamangreat structure 3 times. And
For sure.
now that Striker is really cheap and it's kind of viable again, I think there's going to be one of those decks that people just pick up, play at locals. But I don't see that winning an event anytime soon.
All right.
And then the other deck you mentioned was the Vanquish Soul deck.
The Vanquish Soul for higher runic.
Oh yeah, yeah. So the runic variants, you have like Life Twin, runic for higher, and I guess Plunder Patrol.
Yeah.
But I think that one is more of a meme. Although the what they do with the token is kind of good against like cash, for example. But I think the other two are more like reasonable to play. Yeah, the for high deck is quite good. And I think the live twin deck is a little bit better going first, just because your interruptions are a little bit more, just a bit stronger. And the for high deck does play a couple more breaks, but yeah, the runic decks are definitely like very strong. It's something I'm looking at too. It's just like they only have around 6 spots for non-engine, which is not a lot, especially in a format like this. So that is one thing that I really don't like.
Do you feel like the runic cards don't do enough? Because yeah, you don't have non-engine spots, but do you feel like the runic stuff that's like quote unquote has effects of non-engine, do you feel like that doesn't do enough? Because it is quite diverse if you think about it, like effect negation, pop, spell and check.
It depends on the matchup, right? Like but usually I don't think it is enough. It's also the issue of like it's only good like that if you draw like a lot of them. If you draw like bow, flashing fire, tip, or already have fountain or whatever, then playing through a board with only runic cards sometimes works. But if you draw like a Furhaya card, a Sprite card, and one runic spell, which are definitely hands that happen in that kind of deck, then the runic spells are not gonna do enough. I feel that is very matchup dependent, but they are not really going second cards. Like they're kind of fake going second cards. So I do think the only having 6 or 5 non-engine spots is a real issue.
Okay.
Like I don't think you can say like, oh well, sometimes the runic cards are going second cards. They are when you draw one of those non-engine, because usually they play like evenly, right? Evenly and like maybe Droplet or Dark Ruler, depending on like the and then like in combination with like one, especially if it's evenly and they have like you play through a Sprite board and you have Carrot or whatever, then you can like pop it with flashing or negate it with the other one, and then it becomes very strong. But then you still need that non-engine. Or like some people play Kurikara, so you can just activate one of the runic spells and then you can Kurikara, sure. But then it's still depending on that non-engine. You have to draw that in combination with a play. So no, I do think that's a real issue, and it's another deck that just isn't good into Shifter. So yeah, those are real issues.
Moving on to Vanquish Soul. Also, this one came as a bit of a surprise. Also at our nationals, it made it all the way to top 8. Was it? I don't know if it was top 8 or top 4. I think almost 100% it was top 8, and I think the dude that played it was the only one in the room literally with the Vanquish Soul deck, and people were just like completely caught off guard by that deck. So what do you think about it? Is it only the initial hype? Because it kind of reminds me of when the Trap Trick structure decks came out and then no one knew what they did, and then they became kind of like less good in a matter of a couple of weeks. So do you think that's the same case, or do you feel like the deck is viable?
Well, it definitely has that new deck plot armor that people just misplay against it, sure. But it's becoming more and more, people play more and more against it. However, I do think it could be decent, especially like the support that was announced is pretty good. Like the trap is really good. But for this format right now, it feels just, I think the cards like are good, but it's not consistent enough for it to do like well with a 12 round event, maybe.
Okay.
Although it did quite well into French nationals, so maybe.
Yeah, 3 people made it to top 64.
Yeah. I also think that deck becomes a lot better when you're non-engine. Like it can play like Ash, Kikara, Bestials, like all the dark and fire non-engine. If that non-engine is good already in the format, it becomes a lot better, I think. Um, and right now that's just kind of the question mark what you play against, right? Like if you play against only Despion and T-Link for 5 rounds, then I think your Vanquish deck has a better time than if you play against 5 cash,
Mm.
for example. So no, I do think the deck is viable for sure, but it's one of those 15 decks that is viable, so kind of hard to say.
Okay, that's fair. How about like a random deck like Mathmech, for example? I don't know what your take on Mathmech was before like the ban list, but I
But
really
right now it
disliked
seems
it.
unplayable because you either play against a deck that has Shifter
He-
or
Like
against a deck that
maybe
has
Vicious,
Bestials.
yeah.
So I would not. That's one of the only decks that I'm already convinced I'm not playing for
Okay.
Euros.
I mean, it's I hated that deck. So I was like, I was hyped when Circular went to one. I was so hyped
It
because
was a good hit, yeah.
just why? Why is it okay for a Metmech player to have two extenders, two hand traps, and
Mm.
a circular? It's like I don't think that's cool. I just don't agree with that. So there's that, and also like I guess we talked about like all the diversity because I'm looking at the breakdown now, and there's like Dogmatica, Marintes,
Yeah.
Traptrix, Tyr, Dark World, like even one super heavy samurai. Also, do you think Super Heavy Samurai was sufficiently hit to the point where it's not gonna appear anytime soon in the format anymore, or do you think it's still gonna
Not
happen?
not as a pure deck, but like you can definitely play it as an
Mm,
engine. Like
true.
you saw it maybe with Spray or even like there was a regional I think that played with Kashtira to make
Yeah.
a Karakuri Burrito. So like I think as an engine I think it's feel pretty cool because Rakaushi is like a custom card, but as a pure deck I don't know
Yes,
without the
that's
link
another
if it
card.
is
Yeah.
like without the link I don't think it's a playable deck as pure at
Mm.
least. So yeah, no, I think it was a good hit. Bit early, like I didn't expect it, but if they didn't do that and the rest of the list was the same, we would just all be playing Kashtira and Super Heavy Samurai and nothing
Hmm.
else. So I think that was a good one that they did just to prevent us from getting a format like that.
What about the Pearly hit? There's a lot of talk about that as
The
well.
purely one,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that one is a bit harsh. I'm not sure. Purely is a really cool deck, I think. Also a deck that's gonna get a lot better in like a month.
Yes.
And I was
Mm-hmm.
surprised that they hit it already, just because like it wasn't performing that well. It was good, especially into Kishira going second. It was a really cool deck. Um, and they just hit the best card in the deck, so I'm not sure. Like we saw Angel won. No, sorry, he got second at Central America WCQ with Purely,
Mm-hmm.
which was surprising to me because I wasn't sure that that would like be
Yeah.
overperforming that well.
Yeah.
So and he's a very strong player, so that does tell me that is still an option to look at. But I don't know. I don't think that hit was very necessary to be honest. But maybe
Mm-hmm.
I'm wrong. Maybe we would all be playing purely now. I don't know.
I mean, we probably would be like. I guess the same argument could go as for Super Heavy Samurai. If the rest gets hit and Purdy stays intact,
Yeah,
then that's not exactly a
but
good
Super Heavy
thing.
was on a different level, I think, though.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, it was super heavy. It was just stupid. Although I
Yeah.
did like the fact, like, I didn't particularly like the deck, but I liked the fact that at least it had a downside because I feel like in the last, like, in recent years, decks just don't really have downsides. And with super heavy, at least it's like the thing where, okay, you can play spells and traps. Okay, there's something, but it, like, even if that's the thing, people still played like anti spell in it. Some people, so it's like, okay, just I guess post sighting, just having an anti spell if you want.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That was kind of I didn't like it that much, but like it was pretty silly when I went first uninterrupted. So yeah,
uh,
it was definitely on a different level than purely.
it was. I guess I think the hit kind of made sense actually. Although I do feel bad about people investing into Purdy. That sucks. That actually
Nah, that's
sucks.
fine, but because the support next
Yeah, I
month
mean the support
is
is great,
insane.
but
So I that deck will definitely be meta again. So
mm,
don't despair if you have a pure deck right now.
no, I don't. I just feel bad for the people. So yeah, other than that, the other thing I wanted to mention, because you said how you don't really like diversity, and do you like and you've been playing for quite some time. How do you deal with not liking a format, maybe? Because I've seen Edison be hyped a lot. Also at big events, like there's supposed to be like, Edison tournament at NAWCQ, at Euros. And I'm super hyped about that. So do you like dabble in alternate formats?
No, I don't
You
actually. No,
don't? Okay.
no.
All
I
right.
sometimes I play cube if one of my friends has a cube with him,
Okay.
but other than that, no, I do not play alternate formats because like to me, if I don't like a format, it doesn't really matter because I still go to all events and I still want to do well, so I still would put in a lot of time and prepare a lot. Even if I don't like it, sure, like that becomes more. It feels more like work than other times, but to me that doesn't matter.
That's really
I would
interesting.
still have to put in the hours anyway. Um, and it's still kind of fun to like, even if a format is bad, to like try and find stuff. It's just, it is also more frustrating if it doesn't work out. But
Mm.
um, no, I like the alternate formats are also like something. I wasn't playing when Edison was a real thing. I was like 8 years old
I mean, we
when
were
Edison
young,
was.
yes.
So I don't have the nostalgia that other people have. Like most people that are like nearing 30, I can understand how fun it is to like discover that format and actually have events and organized play supporting it. I think it's very cool that they do that, and I hope they will also bring out products for like old formats. Like it would be really cool if they would just brought out a goat set and an Edison set or whatever. Or just
Dude,
a lot of reprints.
imagine.
So like yeah, just like a bunch of like starter decks from like that era or whatever. Just bring out an entire plant deck or whatever.
Like that would be really
Um
cool for everyone that has to like get Edison cards right now because the market is
exactly.
spiking and it's kind of insane. Although all I want
Yeah.
are older prints. Like I don't mess with new prints. I'm
Yeah,
not
well,
about
they
that.
could maybe like I could see them doing that in the future,
Yeah,
just
it
like
might be.
a time wizard box or whatever. Um, so I do think it's a very cool concept. It's just not for
Mm-hmm.
me.
Okay.
Maybe in like 10 years when they do an Edison tournament for like tier element, for example, that is a format that I enjoyed a lot and
Mm-hmm.
something I would like to replay. But the Edison formats they have right now are either Goat or sorry, Edison, like the time wizard
The
formats that
time
they have
wizard
right now are
formats,
either
yeah.
Goat or Edison, which
Mm-hmm.
I've never played them in when they were real,
Yeah.
so I don't really feel the need to do that.
Okay, that's fair. I haven't either. I was literally 11 in 2010, so
Yeah.
so I was little, but I really enjoy it nevertheless. And I think it's cool that people can get into alternate formats because there's a lot of people that also switched to Edison in particular when Tier was around, and it was an enjoyable format to me as well. Even though I didn't play Tier, but it wasn't a bad format
Mm,
to me. But a lot of people enjoyed it, and a lot of people didn't. So I guess it's cool that there's options for everyone.
yeah.
And yeah, speaking of diversity still, like Euros are gonna be kind of insane. Like what's your preparation looking like for Euros right now?
Well, I try to play daily now. Put in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of hours in like testing different decks. Play a lot of DB, even though I don't really like to play DB, but it's just necessary. And then I think after German nationals, this weekend, I think.
Yep.
Um, my group said like, okay, we want to like bring it down to like at least 3 decks, and then test those 3 decks that we think are most viable for like the next 2 weeks. And I think that is necessary because right now I still have like a list of 10 decks that I could kind of consider. So um, I'm trying to just scratch off stuff.
Is there anything that you're leaning
And
towards? If you can give this away, like
nah, I can't.
not
No.
one deck, but like which do you think are gonna be good? Is what I'm trying to ask, without you giving away too much info.
Well, the obvious answer is like cash is definitely going to be
Okay,
good,
yeah,
just
for
because like
sure.
if you look at all the decks you just mentioned as well, like the random decks that people
Mm-hmm.
play, like Marinces and Tyr and Dragon Link, all of those, if you put them on like a list, you can scratch them off just because Shift and Arise are great.
Yeah.
Um, if for some reason cash really under performs at German nets,
Mm-hmm.
then like you could say, okay, maybe it isn't. People are not going to play it anymore for Euros, and then decks like
Uh,
that become viable. But what I expect is just going to be like top 64, 10 cash, 12 cash, and then cash probably gets to the finals again. and that just shows you that a lot of people just play it for Euros because it's been a deck people played for a long time already, and it
Mm-hmm.
is quite easy to adapt, and you have a lot of non-engine spots, and you have a lot of auto wins against a lot of matchups. So um, that being said, I think if the options that you would consider have to be sort of like at least able to beat cash, and then we already get very quickly to like, I mean, Vanquish Souls, the deck doesn't lose to the Shifter. The Sprite decks are quite okay into cash, although the runic spells kind of lose to Shifter and the Rise Art.
True.
But that is the route I'm looking at right now. Although I think Despia is also a deck I would like to put a lot of time in but it's quite difficult, and I don't know how much time I want to sink into it. But it
Mm-hmm.
is a deck like that could be quite a good sleeper pick. It all depends on like the non-engine people play.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like for example, I think a lot of people are maining talents now, which kind of makes me just not want to play any hand traps and just play board breakers so you don't make their
Mm-hmm.
talents live turn one. That would like with that logic, you would probably not main deck Ash. If people do go that way and don't main Ash anymore, then Despia becomes a lot better, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if people decide not to side barrier anymore, then that's another reason to like maybe pick it up. But like that depends on both results and how much time I want to put into that. If I really want to consider that,
Mm-hmm.
and then like you also have the Rika deck, which is quite interesting.
It's a cool
Just
deck
because
for
it's
sure.
yeah, it also loses to like a lot of different stuff that, for example, Kosh doesn't really lose to. So that's another thing that depends on like what non-engine people play. So like I think the German nationals will shape
Mm-hmm.
up the just because it's streamed as well. I don't know if the remote device is streamed, but like those two events
Oh.
will just shape up a lot of like what we will try for Euros. Like it just very depends on like, but yeah, like I said, I still have like a list of like 8 to 10 decks which are could be kind of viable, and I want to bring them down after
Mm.
this weekend.
Well, I mean, I wish you all the luck in bringing it down to about like I don't know a couple decks so you make your choice. And
Yeah,
just overall at Euros, I wish you all the best. I hope you do very well. Hope you become a champ, dude. Like that would be
that'd
cool.
be cool.
So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. For our episode today. If you guys are still watching, I appreciate you so much. I'm so thankful for you guys listening to our chit chats about Yu-Gi-Oh, and it was really nice to host you. I really enjoyed this. So
Thanks.
yeah, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.